Hi everyone, I'm Diane Manuel. Welcome to our monthly free webinar at Urban Wealth Management, our Smart Money Savvy Women webinar, where on the second Thursday of every month except December, we host a webinar that covers financial issues and also broader lifestyle issues. So if you're new to us, I want to say welcome and thank you for joining us. Let me tell you a little bit about Urban Wealth Management. We are a full-service financial advisory firm. What that means is we work with our clients from a very holistic perspective. We want to help you get your financial life in gear, and we do that by helping you organize, prioritize, strategize, and thrive. The process we use is really based on providing some education, comfort, and helping our clients feel secure in their daily lives today and tomorrow. So, in addition to doing our financial services, one of the benefits is that we host a number of events for our clients. As I said, the second Thursday of every month is a free webinar. Our next one in September is about Medicare. And many of you are thinking probably, what are you talking about? I'm not that interested in Medicare yet. Believe me, what we see is that frequently people don't think about it until the very end. So we're hosting a Medicare webinar with some wonderful insurance specialists, and they'll walk us through the process. So if you or anyone you know are close to being on Medicare, which is at 65, please sign up or share this webinar with your friends or family. And additionally, in October, we're going to be hosting a webinar with a couple of fabulous estate planning attorneys. We're really going to talk about how do your digital assets fit into your estate plan. What about your Facebook page and your LinkedIn and your Instagram and your Twitter and your Pinterest, even your Tinder page or your Match.com page? What happens to those things if you become ill and incapacitated or when you pass away? So they're going to talk about that in October. And then finally, we'll be talking about that in October. Right? And then in November, we're going to finish up the quarter with our wonderful Dr. Lois Franco, who many of you know is a best-selling author and a coach, and she's just done a wonderful job for us and is a great partner, and she's going to talk about courage and confidence in leadership. So please join us for that. And just quickly, I want to share where myself and I are going to be out and about, and my colleague Renee. So first of all, in September, on the 15th, we'll be at the 2018 Mount St. Mary's Leadership Conference. It'll be at their campus in Brentwood. It should be beautiful and fun. I was a moderator last year for a panel, and Renee's going to be doing that this year. It's the conference that I met our current speaker for today, Susette, at. So please join us, and please visit our website for the promo code. On September 29th, I will be at the Sage Sisters and California Black Health Project, spending a day talking about health and wellness. And that'll be in Culver City at the Veterans Building. So please join us there also. And finally, one of the biggest things I'm most excited about is we're hosting a women's conference in San Francisco in conjunction with the Women's Foundation of California. I'm a board member, so all of the proceeds for this conference will be going to the Women's Foundation of California to help work on gender justice. However, this day-long event will be just an opportunity for women to show up and be bold. We're going to talk about finances and legacy planning and philanthropy. We'll have a stylist. We're going to get the agenda up fairly soon, but however, I would love for you to go to our website and register. It's only $50 with the promo code until September 15th. If you're from Southern California, come on up. I'm going to be staying in Emeryville, just across the bay from the Embarcadero, which is where the conference will be, in the Google community space. And I'll be at the Marriott. I would love to see a bunch of folks. I already have some friends coming, so I hope you can join us. And I think that's it, except that we have a wonderful intern here at Urban Wealth Management this summer, Carol Jones, and she put us on Instagram because, of course, I couldn't figure it out. So Carol's got us on Instagram, so all we need now are some followers. So please go onto Instagram, like us, follow us, say hello to us, and if there's postings that you'd like to see, please, please let us know. So with all of that, I'm going to switch this over to our speaker for today, Susette Aguiar. She is the president and founder of Aguiar Professional Training. She is a professional coach. She's a professional strength coach. She does tons of training and coaching, helping people really utilize their strengths and learn not to be in such a draining space where it's hard for them to get work done. So in a second, we're going to, there you go. So this is, Susette, I'm just going to hand it over to you, and you can, oh, I forgot. I need to tell everyone some wonderful things about you. She plays tennis. She's an English teacher. She loves To Kill a Mockingbird. But what I really, really love about her is that she's into comic books, because you don't find that many women into comic books. And her favorite superhero, of course, is Wonder Woman. So with that, please go right ahead.
Thank you very much, Diane, and thank you to all of you who are on this webinar with us. Thank you for taking the time, and welcome. As Diane mentioned, I am the CEO of Aguiar Professional Training, and my specialty is helping teams become more effective and thereby becoming more fulfilled and happier. I help bosses become better bosses, and all that by using their strengths in a more strategic way. I also do workshops, training sessions, executive coaching, and one-on-one coaching for people who just want to get a little bit more out of life in a way that's natural to them. And that's what we're going to talk about today, is using your strengths. And so as Diane said, I am a strength scope analyst and trainer, and what that means is I have this certification that was kind of hard to get, but definitely worth it, because now I am able to help people use their strengths more mindfully and strategically to get what they want. And that's really the bottom line, is for us to get the results that we're looking for by using our strengths in a way that's more strategic and at its full power. And the purpose of today's webinar is to go over what exactly I mean when I say strengths and energizers, and how to get more of those in our lives, and then how to minimize overdrive and drainers, and I'll explain what those are also. And then lastly, we'll talk about how perceptions need to be aligned in order for us to get what we want out of life. So is the way we want to be perceived aligned with the way that people are perceiving us? And if not, what can we do to change that to be more effective? So the goal for us is to be at our best and most energized at work and at home. And it seems like such a common sense concept, but really, like most things that are common sense, it's not so common. So at the same time, this is a common sense concept that's also revolutionary. And here's why. From childhood, it is ingrained in us that we need to spend time, energy, money, focus on our weaknesses. Little Emily comes home with her report card, an A+ in French. That's terrific. Straight A's and 1 C. how is that conversation going to go at home with her mom and dad? That conversation is going to be, oh, good job, but let's look at this C. What do we need to do to get that C up to a better grade, Emily? So now Emily walks away from that conversation with her mom and dad feeling dejected because she's not very good at math, and that's all that the conversation focused on, and now she has to spend extra time and energy in something she doesn't even really like. Now, had that conversation been centered around, hey, Emily, this is amazing. You got A+ in French. Let's talk about sending you to France for a study abroad program. Maybe you want to be an interpreter or translate manuscripts. I mean, there's so much you can do. This is great. Don't worry about the C. You still have grades in the GPA and the SAT scores to get you in the college you need to get to. So let's see what we can do here. She's going to walk away from that conversation with her mom and dad feeling empowered and like the wonderful rock star that she is in French. Now, I want to take a moment here to talk about weaknesses. Now, I do want to stress that we can't completely ignore them, unfortunately, because we live in a world that we can't fully customize to our taste. So what we need to do with our weaknesses is get them to the point where they are at the baseline functionality that we need in order to get what we want. And here's the example. So Emily wants to go off and be an interpreter from French to English, and she's going to go off and live in France. She's not going to need pre-calculus in her daily life as an adult. But she is going to need to know how to calculate a tip at the restaurant for the server. She's going to need to know how much those shoes are going to cost that are now 30% off that she wants to buy. And she needs to keep her bank account balanced. She knows enough about math to live a happy, well-adjusted, grown-up life. She doesn't need pre-cal, so she can move on from that. So instead of spending extra time, energy, focused in pre-cal, she needs to ask herself, do I know enough about this one area where I can move on with my life? Yes? Okay, moving on. I don't have to be a rock star at everything. But it's ingrained in us, isn't it? Like that conversation that Emily had with her mom and dad. Then little Emily grows up, and what happens at her performance evaluation? The boss says to her, you exceed expectations here, you exceed expectations here, you exceed expectations here. These are great. But there's this one little area, Emily, where we can have some improvement. And the rest of the performance evaluation is centered on that one topic. So Emily, who is a valuable, insightful, hardworking member of that team, walks away from that meeting with her boss feeling dejected and unvalued and unappreciated. Now, if I were Emily's boss, that conversation would go something like this. You exceed expectations here, exceed expectations here, exceed expectations here. This one area, we can use improvement. So who do you think we can delegate this to give you more time in the areas where you shine? Because as a boss, I want my employees to be in the area where they shine. So you take a child with a report card, focus on the weaknesses. You take the grown-up in a performance evaluation, you focus on the weaknesses, and that is not going to get us the results we want. The Strengths Foundation is basically work in the area where you excel. You feel good when you do it. You're good at doing it. Let's give you the resources and time and energy to spend in that area, and your results will be off the charts. Now, when I say the word strength, I mean something different than what you're probably thinking of, and I alluded to it a little bit ago. Strength is not simply what you're good at, but what also makes you feel good when you're doing it. So that's when we're in the zone of peak performance, and that's the key, because we can be good at things that leave us feeling drained, and we don't want that. So even if you're really good at something, but it leaves you feeling drained, that's a weakness. Because remember, in order for it to be categorized as a strength, it has to have these two components together. When we are in the zone of peak performance, we enter what psychologists call the state of flow. And we've all felt this at some point. It's where 1 hour feels like 5 minutes. And we sit down to do a project, and all of a sudden we look up and it's already lunchtime, because we are in the zone, as the slang term goes. And that's where we want to be most of the time. Now, in addition to the anecdotal evidence we have of our friends, our employees, our coworkers, we also have hard research done by Gallup. People who use their strengths every day are 6 times more likely to be engaged on the job. Now, those of you who are here on this webinar, you're either bosses, employees, spouses, friends. You know what an engaged employee looks like. That is the person who is going to work harder, going to contribute more to the team, who is not going to leave the job. So you don't have to worry about all of the problems and the expense of turnover, which costs companies a lot of money. In addition to that, there's 3 people who use their strengths every day are 3 times more likely to be happier with their lives in general. And happy people treat the people around them better. And we know the grouchy coworker down the hall that we want to avoid, because whenever we have to have an interaction with that person, it kind of leaves us feeling like we were slimed, right? Like we're walking away feeling a little negative and a little down. No one wants to have that person in the office. So a simple thing of helping people to use their strengths every day can help us have people happier and more engaged on the job. Now, we talked about strengths, and as Diane shared with you, I am a comic book geek, so here's my Superman. And if Superman wanted to give me a hug, I would welcome that, literally with open arms. Like, yes, please, come and give me a hug. But Superman has to be mindful about how he's going to hug me, because his strength could crush every bone in my body and kill me. That's not his objective. So going into it, he needs to know what his objective is, and it's to give me a hug without killing me. Now, if he's going to save a baby who's trapped on the railroad and here comes a locomotive, then yeah, amp up that strength and save that baby. So being mindful of what the outcome is that we desire and how to strategically use our strengths to get that outcome is key. Now, if Superman uses his strength without being mindful and he kills me, that's overdrive. And that's something to be aware of, because, again, it's not going to give you the outcome that you want. So we want to minimize overdrive in our lives. Now, overdrive leads to also perception. So managing perceptions. How do we see ourselves versus how does the world see us? Here is a page from the strength scope assessment that I use with my clients, and this is a really good illustration. So this client and the top indecisiveness, the perception that the client has versus the perception that others have of the client is very much aligned. So where it says how often raters see this strength, raters are the people that the clients select to give feedback. So a coworker, an employee, a boss, someone you volunteer with, someone in the family. So anybody that you respect to give you feedback, that's a rater. So this client's rater said that the decisiveness, they see it a lot, and the client, when asked how often do you use it, said, yeah, I use it very often. So the little purple flag is aligned with the high bar, and that's what we want. Now looking down in collaboration, we see that there is a huge disconnect. The disconnect is that the client thinks that the client does not collaborate very often, right? There's a little purple flag saying, oh, I collaborate rarely, when all of the raters said, not yet, you collaborate a lot. Like, it is very often that we see this. Now, the danger in overdrive and the danger in perceptions not being aligned is this. Look on the next slide, where it says how often raters would like to see this strength. The raters all said less often, like, yeah, tone that back a lot. But the client said, oh, I need to do this even more than I'm already doing it. This is going to be harmful to that client's results, because if the client wants to get a better result, the client needs to understand that in collaboration, the client is going into overdrive. You need to tone it back. Now, some people say well, how can collaboration ever be a bad thing? Like, how can enthusiasm ever be a bad thing? How can supporting others ever be a bad thing? How can being detail-oriented ever be a bad thing? Like all good things, in excess, they are bad. Because, for example, with collaboration, if this client always needs consensus, committee meetings, delays on decisions until everyone has a say, it can delay projects. It can just be really the opposite of what the client wants. So being mindful of how we're being perceived and how we're using our strengths is very critical. So we're going to continue on, but just to review what we've talked about so far at this point, overdrive, think of that as too much salt in the soup. And here I want to point out, we don't want to eliminate our strengths. I'm not going to say to that client, hey, don't be collaborative. I'm going to say to the client, be collaborative in a strategic way. I'm not going to say, hey, don't put salt in that soup, because for that recipe, we need salt, but we need it in the right measure. So just like in life, before I walk into a meeting, what strengths do I need to let shine? Which ones do I need to make sure don't go into overdrive? And how am I going to get the results I want using what I already have? Moving on to perception. Again, am I being perceived as a detail-oriented person, or am I being perceived as nitpicky and overly critical? So if I am detail-oriented, I'm efficient, I am results-focused, that's fine. I want to keep all of these things because this is who I authentically, truly am. And I'm all about being our true selves, but being our true selves more mindfully. So if I'm detail-oriented and I'm being in a position of having to proofread something for somebody, I'm also going to call in my other strengths of being compassionate, of wanting to develop others. So when I'm giving feedback or corrections or suggestions, I'm going to use all of that. So I'm still being detail-oriented, but I'm using other strengths to help me in that situation to avoid looking like I'm just this nitpicky, critical person that nobody wants to come and talk to. So keeping that perception in mind. And then lastly, before we move on, is awareness of ourselves. When we know that we're going to be working in something that's a drainer for us, we need to be mindful of how we're going to be coming across to others. When we know what works best for us, then we need to align our lives as much as we can to get ourselves in that position to use what works best for us the majority of the day. And at the same time, we need to have awareness of others. If someone else is going to be working in something that's a drainer for her, and I'm thinking, well, that should be a piece of cake. I don't know why she's struggling so much. I need to have that awareness that my strengths are not hers, and I need to give that person grace. And in all situations, I think it's much better to work from a position of giving people the benefit of the doubt, assume good intent, and really try to have that added awareness of ourselves and others. Now moving on, when we are in a drainer, so drainer is the opposite of being in the state of flow. So remember, in the state of flow, an hour goes by and it feels like it was just 5 minutes. Well, flip that. So you're working on a project that is just draining you. You look up at the clock and it's only been 5 minutes, and you feel like it was an hour. So if I were to ask this fish in this little cartoon to climb that tree, that would be a drainer for that fish. And that fish is now going to feel like a failure. And this is loosely based on something that Albert Einstein said, or at least was attributed to Albert Einstein, where if we judge a fish by how well he can climb, he will spend his life feeling unintelligent. But if we judge a fish by how well he can swim, then he will feel amazing. Now, that's a very paraphrased version of the quote. But that's what we do in life, isn't it? We take ourselves and we beat ourselves up because we can't climb that tree. Well, we're fish. We weren't meant to climb the tree. We need to spend our time, energy, and focus on our strengths. And stopping to talk a little bit about drainers and weaknesses, my weaknesses are weaknesses for a reason. I either don't like it or I just don't have the natural ability for it. And that's okay. It took me a long time to get to this point. That's okay. I'm never going to be the Michael Phelps of swimming, but I will swim well enough or dog paddle to save my life if I'm ever capsized from some boat accident. And that's what I'm talking about, the baseline functionality in our weaknesses. So if I'm a fish, let me swim. Don't ask me to climb a tree and then call me a failure. So because we live in a world that we didn't design ourselves, here's some practical ways to deal with drainers. And they're very self-explanatory, so I'm going to go through these really quickly. If you can stop doing it, stop doing it. We get into a bad habit of always doing what we've always done just because it's what we've always done. So take a critical look at your drainers and ask yourself, does this still need to get done? Is this going to help forward the critical mission of my company, my department, my home, my family? If not, stop. Number 2 is to outsource or barter. So if your partner doesn't mind doing laundry and you hate doing laundry, but you don't mind scrubbing sinks, boom, match made in heaven. If one of your coworkers loves to analyze data and you get really drained and bored by it, but you love to do presentations and she is nervous about that, again, you will be the dynamic duo and unstoppable. So partner up, barter or outsource. The third is to reframe, just maybe thinking of something in a different way. I know I used to raise money for student scholarships at the universities, and sometimes it could be really stressful and draining. And when I would just remind myself that the work I was doing was helping students go to school and get an education that they would not have had otherwise, it buoyed my spirit and helped me go on. So just reframing it if you can. Then we have learn about it. A lot of times we are intimidated and drained by things that we don't know enough about. So maybe we can learn something more interesting about it or feel a little bit more proficient in it, and it'll make it less draining. And then the last one is the worst one, and that's just grin and bear it, get through it, and maybe promise yourself a nice reward afterward, like go for a nice walk, go get yourself a latte, but just kind of, if you have to do it and there's no other way to deal with it, then just grin and bear it, get it done, and move on. Now, this is something that I hope you take a minute to write down, and you can also email me and call me or visit my website, Aguiar-Professionaltraining.com. This is learning in action. I really don't want to be one of those webinars or one of those sessions where people come to it and they feel great and inspired, and then 2 weeks later they go back to doing what they were doing before. I want you to put into practice daily habits that are going to make you feel more energized and like you're really working in your place of strength. So take a moment to reflect to yourself how you felt when you were in that state of flow, a time when you felt that you were at your best, and really think about what that was and how you felt about it. Then do the same thing for your drainers. Then come up with a practical plan of how you will apply your strengths in a more mindful, strategic way in order to get the outcome that you want to have. And then lastly, how can you add these in your life to feel more energized or increase them if they're already there? Now, very quickly, I'm going to tell a story about these articles online that I am addicted to. It's those, lead like Oprah, inspire like Martha Stewart, be innovative like Steve Jobs. I love those articles. I read them. The problem is I'm not Steve or Oprah or Martha. I'm Susette. And so what I need to do is I need to be the most vibrant, brightest version of who I am, staying true to my true colors, but just being a better version of that. Maya Angelou did this really well, and I am so grateful she did. The world is better for having her poetry, her writings, her inspiration. She focused on her strengths, and she focused on what made her feel energized. And that is why we now have the wonderful works of Maya Angelou that we do have. And so in this way, I am going to ask you to be like Maya and focus on your own strengths and what energizes you. So in the interest of time, instead of having questions and answers, please email me. But I will share with you this one takeaway. The majority of the people who sign up for this are women, and usually it is a more female trait to beat ourselves up for not being perfect at everything. It's either ingrained in us, socialized, or maybe there is something genetically, I don't know, but definitely socialized, for us to feel bad that we're not perfect at everything. I'm here to tell you that that's unrealistic, and to stop beating yourself up and to start focusing on the areas where you shine, where you are a rock star, and put all of your energy into that. Stop beating yourself up for not being perfect at everything, because no one is, no matter what their Instagram or Facebook page tells you. So I want to thank you for your time and attention. Please do contact me, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.
Thank you, Susette. That was fabulous. Oh my God, we've got such great comments. People are saying thank you, so I want to relay that to you. That was really great, and I think that takeaway about really being yourself and being the strongest and best yourself that you can be, and stop beating yourself up, I think it's something we can take with us every day. And you're right, women have a tendency to do that. So I want to thank you. This has been fabulous. And if you guys have some questions for Susette, please reach out to her. She has been very giving, and she welcomes all your thoughts or any insights. Thank you for joining us today. I'm looking forward to seeing you at some future webinars and at many of our events, either here in Southern California, or if you're so inclined to join me and Renee in the Bay Area, that would be fabulous. We would love to have you there. So thank you, everyone, and I look forward to our next webinar and next event, wherever I hope to see you, wherever I see you again soon. All right, take it easy. Have a rest of the day is good, I hope, for everyone, and have a great weekend too. Thanks. Bye.